Well, more now on the privacy hearing on Capitol Hill today. I want to bring in the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Pat Leahy from Washington, in Washington right now on the Hill. Also, Nick Thompson staying with us as well. Senator Leahy, thank you so much for standing by and for joining us. What do you want to learn today from Apple and Google?
Well, I think your correspondent has talked about a number of things going on. They're making a huge amount of money with these location devices. Of course, none of that goes to the consumer. In fact, they charge the consumer for the ability to use the device to make money for Google and Apple. That's one of the side things. But I think, like most Vermonters, I worry about privacy. We really appreciate our privacy in our state. I think most people do. And I think it came as a surprise to everybody how much your privacy is being used by these companies so that they can make money of using your devices, and actually, I think, violating your privacy. Now, in a modern age, we give up too much privacy. It is, whether you're going through an airport or anything else, and why give up more? And then, I mean, the worst part about this, you give up your privacy. Oh, and by the way, we're going to make you pay for giving up the privacy because we want to make money on you giving up your privacy. It's an interesting business model.
Well, make money, maybe not directly, but indirectly by partnering obviously with other companies. But Senator Leahy, the flip side of that is, what about using that data so that the companies can serve the consumer better, as Nick was talking to us about, so that they can target products to you better. They can make your life as a consumer a little bit better. What about that side?
So they can make sure you get more ads, whether you want them or not. Some might question whether they are really doing this for your good. And they're doing it primarily so they make money in selling it. They can also send you a lot more ads, whether you want them or not. And of course, in some instances, it can be helpful as we use GPSs. It can be helpful if law enforcement wants to subpoena the records to find out where you've been. It can be helpful for law enforcement. The question is whether it's helpful to the individual, and that's one of the reasons we're having the hearing. Now, I do appreciate the fact that both Google and Apple are willing to testify, and that is something new for them, and I appreciate that.
Senator Leahy, legislation in the Senate on the Hill tends to move quite slowly. Technology companies tend to move quite fast. Many of the companies that are using this data, for example, Groupon, barely existed a year ago, and it could take a year to write legislation. How worried are you that if you end up writing privacy legislation, you will end up stifling the growth or even preventing the development of new companies that depend on this sort of data?
The Senate just passed 95-5, a very large patent bill. And we have to ask ourselves that same question. One of the reasons we got a great deal of industry support as it came out of the Senate Judiciary Committee is that we took into consideration the fact that technology changes very, very rapidly. If we write legislation on this, we'll work with the industry to do just that. My concern is that if people's privacy is being taken away from them, unbeknownst to them, they ought to at least know it. If somebody's making money out of taking your privacy, you ought to at least know it.
Senator, you mentioned before that you are glad Apple and Google have showed up for this hearing. Did you want Steve Jobs? Did you want Larry Page here today?
No, I wrote to them and said, please send somebody. In the past, when we had, for example, some of our other hearings, they had declined sending somebody. I suggested they may well want to send somebody to this. Of course, if they had not, I would have subpoenaed them. So that's, but I think it's more appropriate that they do it voluntarily.
Senator Leahy, thank you very much. It's always hard to say no to government. Senator Patrick Leahy, the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee.